My take is that many things have been tough for Simon, but a spell in an acute psychiatric hospital recently has lifted his personal awareness of his personal boundaries and how to move forward. In his plan is competing in a high-profile kickboxing competition. He's also into martial arts. And to take more notice of his intense emotions, which sometimes get him into trouble. Well, Simon, welcome to you and to Ivan to Mental Health Radio. Take it from us. You've got your guitar here today.
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Kia ora, everybody. It's nice to be here. Feeling welcome and feeling happy about this process, and just looking forward to sharing my experiences and what I've been through recently and throughout my life.
Right. Well, we'd like it to be a win-win where you have some fun and,
of course.
and we have some fun and have a really positive interview. So that summary that, I pretty much dreamed up after talking to you, I was a little unsure as to whether I'd come close to what you would appreciate and what you'd feel comfortable with. You know, that summary captures some of your personal challenges.
Definitely, yes. I feel, I've dealt with my mental health kind of issues. I've got anxiety and depression. Those things I've kind of worked through for years and years, sometimes on my own, sometimes through counselling. And those also kind of led into, addiction issues where I used to drink and do a lot of drugs, and they, I guess, were an escape from trying to deal with the real issues that were, the demons in a box that I kind of tried to put away and hide and not deal with. And, I guess it's just about my own personal journey and my own personal ability to deal with the things that I've been given.
Yeah, I mean, how successful was the booze and drugs in sort of sorting out your anxiety and depression?
Oh, it was completely counterproductive. It has no merits whatsoever as a way to deal with anything, with any real substance. With any real kind of end goal. It is merely a distraction from actually having to face the things I needed to face. And right now I'm in the process of facing those demons, the things in my life that I've put in the too hard basket.
What have people told you and what have you learnt about sort of where anxiety and depression come from?
Well, I guess a lot of it's probably due to my upbringing, the first kind of formative years of my life. It was quite turbulent, and I guess my father left when I was 6 weeks old. I had a stepfather after that who was angry and abusive, so for the first 10 years of my life I lived in this pretty toxic environment. My mum took myself and my siblings away from him the day after my 10th birthday. There were a lot of issues going on within the family, and there were, obviously the anger issues, the unhealthy environment of being around somebody who's so toxic, and was very, found it really easy to fly off the handle and lose it a lot. And then on top of that, I guess the major thing was there were allegations of sexual abuse as well.
When you grow up in that toxic environment as you've described it, and I guess there's no real positive role model there.
Not really. My mum was always there. My mum is still there. She's been the one that's been my rock throughout my 39 years of walking this earth. She was there, but I guess, she was young as well. She was dealing with her own things, trying to deal with that. She's got 4 kids. There's a lot of stresses involved. So, and after having to leave, then she had to take on more of a provider role, which took away a lot of time from us. And now she kind of says that, that time is something you don't get back, and it's one of the most precious things. And being a father myself, it's something that I am aware of and I need to give to my children, is that time. Because I know there'll come a day when they'll grow up, they'll be teenagers, they'll be young adults, and they won't want to hang out with me anymore because they'll be too cool and they've got their own friends and their own lives. So right now, while they're young, this is the time when I get to, relish and enjoy those times with them. And it's been one of my main focuses with my recovery, is being the best dad I can be. So
how's your level of anxiety and depression today?
Today, right at this minute, I'm okay. I'm in this room and I'm feeling like I'm in a safe environment, relatively. Safety is a relative term based on perspective, so there's always those outside chances that something crazy will happen. But, obviously right here, right now, I'm feeling pretty okay. But I guess on Saturday I had my coach, who is just opening up his new gym over in Ellerslie, the Combat Academy. He's a UFC fighter, Dan Hooker, and he's an excellent coach and an excellent guy. He was having the opening day on Saturday, and I was lying on the couch with my blankets on me, dealing with the anxiety of turning up to this event where I'd actually have to socialise with people, and it was really, really hard. And I was talking to one of my friends online who I haven't seen for a while, but his partner also deals with anxiety, and she even runs her own Facebook page, a group where people can talk about anxiety. And he was just saying, just go along. You don't really have anything to lose. Even if you go early and leave early, just turn up, show him that you care and that you're there to support what he's doing. But you don't have to stay the whole time. And, it just gave me that little kind of pat on the back, or the encouragement to actually go, okay, I can probably do this. And then a little while later I was at the gym, and I bumped into one of my other coaches that I trained with up at the gym, and she was there, and she has the same problem. She said I had to take a pill before I came here just to make sure that I was okay. Yeah. And her partner helped her too to try and, alleviate some of that anxiety. And that's kind of my big one, is socialising.
Yeah, you should say that, because I was just going to add in there that I went to a group for the first time on Saturday and I nearly sort of chickened out. So getting that courage to make that move, that's huge, particularly if you haven't been in that social environment.
Yeah, I find that really hard. I find it really strange as well, because being a musician and being a fighter, I'm more than happy to stand in a ring and fight somebody in front of thousands, hundreds of people, or get up on a stage and play to 10,000 people behind a drum kit or behind my guitar or something. But standing in a room with a few people and talking to them is really hard.
Maybe because it's made in a more personal, closed environment?
Yep.
In the small numbers, you'd think in bigger numbers that you'd be more,
Yeah. I think a lot of it was the fact that I have a purpose when I'm doing those things. If I'm fighting or I'm playing or I'm doing something like that, I've got a job to do, so all of my focus and intention is based on that. But when I'm just kind of dropped in the pool to swim with everybody else, it's kind of like I find it really difficult to do that. And I guess that's one thing I need to kind of work on and figure out, A, why am I like that? And B, is there some mechanisms or strategies I can put in place to help deal with that? But that's kind of the crux of what I'm trying to do with a lot of different facets of my life, including the depression and other things.
What would be a helpful focus, though, to get you to go along and socialise? I mean, I've got a friend who's taken on a job which is sort of front of house. He's welcoming guests at a tourist attraction, and he's doing that deliberately to try and become familiar or comfortable with being in crowds and dealing with people.
Yes.
I think it's often a reflection of how well we are as to, when we're well, it's not so difficult to go along to that function. When we are a little unwell, then we probably build up all these barriers as to why we should go along, and then we let ourselves down, don't we? Because we don't go. But it sounds as though you plucked up the courage to.
Yep. I guess the key was support. I had support there to kind of reassure me and I guess take away some of those insecurities and that seem to snowball out of control sometimes, that kind of convinced me not to go, because I could already see how the day was going to go. I was going to sit on the couch ruminating about the anxiety of going to this thing, and then once the time had passed, then I was going to sit on the couch regretting the fact I hadn't gone. And I could just see how it was going to happen, because that's happened so many times with me before.
And you're doing a lot of... you're undermining what mental health you've got, aren't you, by those two processes? I mean, it's fair to say that you've had a spell in an acute psychiatric hospital not so long ago. I don't know how many weeks ago. So I guess, you're definitely...
2 months ago I got out.
2 months ago.
Yeah.
A locked environment. It's not that pleasant being there.
I hated it.
You hated it. You've got to gain the trust of the staff to even get out the door.
Yes, yeah, totally. And I guess I got put in the hospital because of my high risk of self-harm. I was at a point in my life where everything had imploded, and I needed to be in that environment to take away all those different negative stimulus that were pushing me to those thoughts of self-harm. The hospital was it was a new experience for me. I'd never been into a ward like that before, so it was pretty new. By all accounts, it was all right on the grand scheme of things. I had another friend who was admitted for different stuff at a different ward, and apparently his experience was not a good one, but that was an acute ward with a lot of violent people, and where I was, it was definitely not a lot like that. At the end of the day, I physically felt safe. Most places I go, I'm the apex predator wherever I go. That's just how it is, and that's how I felt in there, but it still didn't stop the whole experience feeling uncomfortable and out of my, just out of my comfort zone.
Yeah. I mean, it is quite a conflict that you described yourself just outside the studio as a weapon.
Yes.
And, you're a kickboxer, you're a martial arts exponent. I imagine that takes... for me to do that, I would be, even if I'd had practice and I was skilled, I'd still be incredibly anxious about climbing into that ring in front of hundreds of people.
Yeah.
But I'm relatively okay about going along to a social occasion and shooting the breeze with people,
Yeah, totally.
I was just going to... let's just ask Simon just to respond to that, because it is quite an inconsistency, if you like.
It's really bizarre. I don't really understand it myself, but I guess, like I was saying, I guess it's a distraction for me. I've always been a sports person, an athlete, right from the very young age. I won my first race at school when I was 5, and I was aware that I had ability as an athlete, and then that just kept growing and growing and growing. Played rugby league, did pretty much nearly every sport under the sun, just trying to find my niche, trying to find that thing, and nothing seemed to resonate with me like fighting does. And I don't know why, because at the end of the day, I've never been in a fight outside of competition, and I never ever want to be in one. I detest violence and that whole kind of thing that goes on in the real world, but I'm aware of it, and subsequently I wanted to be able to take care of myself and protect myself. But jumping in the ring I love it. It's fun. I enjoy the process. I enjoy the challenge. I enjoy the game of it. It is a game. It's a sport. There are rules. There are things that you're allowed to do and that you're not allowed to do. So, and it's just about being the best I can be at that game. And I guess that's always been my thing, being the best drummer I can be, right. The best guitarist, the best artist, the best chef, the best fighter, and now trying to be the best dad I can be. And I guess trying to deal with all of those other issues that keep on pulling me down. My mental health weights that are kind of pulling me under the surface all the time.
Well, it may be a bit stressful trying to be the best at everything. You know, I can recall my old man saying about exams that I was getting very uptight about, that, you know, just do your best. And the only thing I heard was best, the word best.
Yes.
And I think, you know, that's verging on perhaps being a bit of a perfectionist in everything we do.
Definitely.
And if we come second, you know, it can really hit us. Well, Simon, you've alluded to the fact that, you know, that the pack of cards sort of collapsed in the lead-up to ending up in the psych unit in North Shore. What happened then?
Yes, I guess I've had issues with my relationships over the years. Obviously, parts of me are quite well developed in some areas, like my music and my fighting and those things, but there have been issues within my relationships in the past, and one of the main issues was monogamy. For some reason, I've had trouble being faithful, and I'm not exactly sure why that is, but that's one of the main things I'm working on within my therapy at the moment. So that was the main issue, basically, was I cheated on my partner. I cheated on her about 5 years ago, and we tried to make it work. She took me back. At that point, she said, I really think you need to, get some help. And at that point, I was like, yeah, okay. And my avoidant nature kicked in again, and I just kind of put it aside and didn't deal with it. And her kind of compliant nature just kind of allowed for me to do that again. And then last year I fell into another pit of temptation and desire. And obviously there's stuff going on inside me that must allow for these things to happen. And I'm trying to get to the bottom of that. But unfortunately, that happened. And subsequently, my partner left me. We have 3 children. We have a mortgage. It affected my work. I ended up having to leave my job, and I was trying to find a new job, and was having trouble securing something around what I was trying to do. And ultimately, all those things compounding each other became this overwhelming entity unto its own that I couldn't hold up any longer.
Were the affairs a bit like the drugs, though, that they sort of
definitely
diverted you away from the main game, which was depression and anxiety?
Yeah, totally. I guess it helped to fuel my ego and made me feel better and those kind of things. And I guess in the past I used to have I've had a few relationships that actually overlapped, and what I'm kind of learning now is that what happened was I would transfer love from one person to another rather than actually having to deal with heartbreak and have to go through those emotional turmoils that people have when they have a relationship fail. So basically
being alone, left alone.
Yeah, totally. So I was, I guess I'm emotionally immature in that respect, and it's something that I need to improve on and grow. That's why I'm going through my therapy to try and deal with these issues that have been plaguing me for, most of my life. It happened in my teens when it was really started to happen, and that's when I was drinking a lot, and that's when I was, going through a lot of these things. I used to cry pretty much every time I got really, really drunk. The rest of the time, everybody just thought I was that hard man, and it was that kind of the truth serum. The alcohol kind of let it out, and then I'd be that one crying at a party somewhere by myself in the bushes or something like that.
That's the other conflict in your life, and isn't it, that you're I imagine over 6 foot, you're well built, you've got shoulders like a surfer or rugby league. I think you said that, the people close to you don't imagine there's any reason why you should be mentally unwell or that you should have a mental health issue.
Totally. I guess for a long time, most people put up a front. most people will create a persona that they take out with them when they're dealing with the rest of the world. And I definitely have a few personas, and I guess right from the early trauma stage of my life, there was an incident where my stepfather physically attacked my sister, and I was 10 years old at that time and broke her teeth. And, it was, for me, I felt helpless, and that's when my anxiety really kicked in. I had a panic attack and those kind of things. It was just, I hated that feeling of not being able to do anything. And ever since then, I've done everything in my power to be a protector for myself, my family, my friends, and that's what I'm kind of known as. I've created, the body I have is years and years of gym work, years and years of training in different disciplines, and it's just something I created to protect myself, but still inside of, underneath all this muscle and technique, is still that scared little boy. I'm still that same little boy and I've got to get that little boy out and console him and tell him that everything's all right and that it's okay to let go at some point. And that's kind of what I'm trying to deal with. But that's kind of the driving force behind why I am like I am. It's
a lot easier to invest in our physical health than our mental health, I think.
Totally, yeah. And, I was always scared of getting hurt. And my best friend told me the other day, it was kind of like, you never get hurt if people are too scared to do anything. And that was kind of the idea with me, was that I was trying to promote this self-projection of what I am, so that people would be too scared to try to do anything to me.
I think the big challenge, though, is loving ourselves. I mean, if we can love ourselves, then we don't have to have these sort of trappings like an additional woman in our life or that sort of thing. And that to me is the real challenge. I can't say that I've properly achieved it. I've got close, but I've got a few more years on you.
It's a work in progress.
Well, yeah.
And you touched on it earlier, was that perfectionism. Kind of the perfectionism leads to
disappointment.
An ideal,
disappointment.
Ideals that aren't sustainable.
Right.
And I guess because of that, I lack self-compassion. I'm really hard on myself because I expect the best from myself, and you can't be perfect all the time. And I think, I let myself down a lot because of that. I'm really hard on myself, and a lot of my care workers, as well as just my friends and family, have said, you just need to just relax a little bit and be kinder to yourself. Don't be so hard on yourself all the time. And I guess I lived in regret.
Yeah, how are you doing that, though? Can I ask you how you're doing that? Because, that's a major challenge.
It's all in my head. All of the challenges, all of the obstacles, all of those things that I beat myself up for operate in my mind. So I guess dealing with the mind is about being mindful, learning practices and strategies to be able to identify and acknowledge things that are going on in my mind, and then try to implement strategies and techniques to let them happen, to sit with them, and to say, it's natural for me to feel this way. It's natural for me to not be happy with the things I've done, but I can't change them. All I can do is try and change how I operate in the future, so that I don't keep falling into the same hole and having the same results from the same behaviour, that recidivist behaviour that goes on, whether it's alcohol or infidelity or whatever. It's about changing. And, I'm good with my substance abuse now. I don't drink at all, pretty much, since I'm fighting, and I don't do drugs. It's kind of, I'm just in that point where I can say no and be comfortable. So I need to be able to apply that kind of thing to these other parts of my life where I'm still struggling and I'm still having issues trying to, to deal with it.